Welcome back to the Coaches Unscripted podcast. I'm your host, Trey Belcher. With me, as always, is my tag team partner in this endeavor, Corey Smallwood. How's it going, Corey?
What's up, Trey?
Everything's good, always good. Joining us today is renowned speaker, author of several books, including Coach to Coach, Train to Win, and Rooney's Rules, the founder of Training for Warriors, and the chancellor of Lionel University, Martin Rooney. Welcome in, Martin.
Hey, great to see you guys, and I am excited for what I think we're going to share today. So, hey, I would challenge anybody listening right now, if you have a seatbelt, put it around your waist and strap in, because we're going to have some good stuff getting ready to go.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this one. Martin, you and I have been friends for a very long time, I mean, over 20 years. You're the best storyteller. Yeah, I'll tell you that you're the best storyteller. Anybody that has seen you at a Perform Better workshop, a 1-day, a 3-day summit, anything, they know that you tell great stories. It's part of, even your pitch is we remember things through stories, and that's how you honed your craft. And I've been fortunate to be able to hear all of these stories for 20 years, and they never get old. I mean, they never get old. So I think a lot of people have heard some of the UFC stories. You've gotten to work with the Gracies and Jim Miller and Frankie Edgar, and some of the NFL combine stories, and your success with TFW and things like that. I don't think a lot of people understand where you got started. This is, we hear 20-year overnight success. They see Martin Rooney at the peak, the pinnacle of your career, and then we're going to talk about the what's happening now, which is it's only going higher. But tell everybody how you got started, because a lot of our listeners here probably are just getting started in their career as well, and you've been doing it for 25, 30 years now. And so how did you get started in fitness?
Well, starting off, hey, thanks for making me feel old. That was great. But, hey, for everybody listening, yeah, it has now been, and sometimes it's crazy to look back and see how long the journey has been now in fitness or sport, or however you want to say it, strength and conditioning. It's interesting. I've heard something before that, and you're going to hear this story when I tell it. Sometimes, man, you never know where you're going. It's like you can only see to the next light post. But what's interesting is 20 or 30 years down the line, and then you look back, you can see all those light posts, and it seems like it was so easy, right? It seems like, oh yeah, wow, that's just the path I took. That just makes total sense. But while I was doing it, and you'll hear today, not only did it not make sense, but there were certain ingredients I had to have or it would have never happened. And I'm going to challenge you, the listener, today to make sure you've got them too, right? And your bags are packed. But quick history on me, super, super fast. I grew up in New Jersey. My mother was a physical education teacher. She then went on to develop a business that worked predominantly only with women with cancer. That was in the 1980s. And she was a huge inspiration to me, right? Like when I was growing up, it was you get 8 hours of sleep, you eat a great breakfast, you're going to train hard every day, you're going to out-train everybody, you're going to get good grades. And man, that has never failed me, a lot of those lessons today. So I was very lucky to be bathed in, I think, the world of fitness at a very, very young age, right? It's interesting because fast forward, I was a track and field athlete and ice hockey player in high school. I actually went to college for track and field. So I was a javelin thrower in college, Division I, broke the school record there, and then went on to the Medical University of South Carolina, and then in my undergrad, I got my degree in health and exercise science. Then I got my degree in physical therapy and my degree in health sciences, my master's in that at the Medical University. But why I want to tell that story is I always loved sports. I thought sports, fitness, training, like this is what I had a passion for. I was lifting in my basement by myself next to my washing machine and our clothes hanging with weights that had the sand in them. Like that's where my start was. Weights. Yeah. So I just had this passion that's what I was doing when everybody else was probably out either partying or screwing around. And I should have been smart enough for, I don't know, looking back, that I should have known this was what I was supposed to do. Like I felt like I knew that, but when I went to, and I even selected my university because it was one of the only schools that had an exercise science degree. Like that didn't exist, right? So I was in at Notre Dame. And when we went there, I was like, Dad, I don't want to be a biology major. I don't know if this is what I want to do. And I found this university that had exercise science. The professors were incredible. And man, it changed me and I loved it. But here's where the story takes a turn. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to work in strength and conditioning, but to date myself, I went to college in the late 1980s, early 1990s. these careers weren't there yet. Like, so when I was in college, we didn't even have a strength and conditioning coach at our university. Like, we didn't even have that. And so everybody told me, you should be a physical therapist. That's what you should do. That's like a cool thing. My professors told me, then my parents got on board. Everybody's like, you should be a physical therapist. That's the thing you should do. That's a great job. And I went to physical therapy school, which I loved. I love education. And in a weird twist of fate, I made the U.S. bobsled team. So for a few years, I took a hiatus from any of it and was living at the Olympic Training Center, training with the best athletes in the world. Again, loving fitness. And then when my Olympic dream was over, I started working as a physical therapist. And for any therapists that are listening, this is nothing against it. I like the people I worked with. I loved helping people. I would never trade my experience in physical therapy. But here's the thing. It wasn't my ultimate passion. I wasn't making a big enough impact. I was sitting in an hour one way of commute traffic every day. It was killing me. And then I would go in and they were burying us with like 4 patients an hour. I felt like I couldn't do enough to help the way that I wanted. And a lot of the people, man, it was just very difficult for me to feel like I was making a change. Here's the sad part of this story. And I continued to do that for 3 years, knowing that very early on. But during those 3 years, you know what I was studying? You know what I was doing? Every waking hour, I'm reading about fitness. Every weekend, I'm going to try to find either a seminar or surround myself with somebody or push myself in athletics or something. And it was always calling to me that there was this passion, and I wasn't ignoring it because I had this knot in my gut. It was trying to tell me, go do something else. And I'm challenging everybody right now. The best thing that I ever did, I went to a course in Texas, and on the plane ride there, I sat next to a guy named Bill Parisi. And by the end of that weekend, because we had known each other previously, by the end of the weekend, I was like, I'm quitting my job. I'm moving up to where this guy lives. This guy has a van. He's driving around, he's driving around in a van, like going to try to make people faster. And I was like, this is like the greatest thing I ever heard of in my life. And I went home. I told my family that. Guess what they said? They said no. And I was like, wait, I'm like 26, 27 years old. Can you still tell me no? Everybody, all my friends I told, they said no. When I went in and I did quit, they said, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. Now, I was terrified. Right. I moved in the basement of a guy that I met because I sat next to him at a New York Jets game. I didn't even know this guy. I moved into the guy's basement. But then again, that light post thing, looking back, was the greatest move I ever made in my career. It led to not only Bill as my best friend and mentor, and what I learned about business, what I learned about speaking, what I learned about marketing, what I learned about training, of course. And it was the ultimate, not only education and university, but I have never really worked a day since. Right. And why? Because I've been so passionate, and now I'm never afraid to chase whatever it is I'm super, super passionate about. So if anything from that story right there, just to start, I'm challenging the listener right now. It's not about me today. It's about what do you learn from it? And do you have that knot in your gut? Right? Is there like something more you want, but and like the world's telling you, no, it's not real, or you can't do it, or be realistic? Man, don't listen to that. Right. And give it a chance, chase that passion. And here's the coolest thing. I wish I would have known this. You ready for, we talked about having some nuggets. If somebody would have if I could go back in time, I would tell myself this. You ready? What's the worst that can happen if you try? And the worst thing that would have happened is I would have gone up there, sports performance wouldn't have taken off, or we wouldn't have done what we did, and I would have gone back to being a therapist. But at least I would have gave it a shot, right? And most people are just so afraid to ever take that little leap. And now looking back, it was a little leap. Like, what would that have been? But man, it came back to like, what are you really fired up about? What gets you amped? And the real goal in life should be spending as much time on that as possible, right? And man, I got so lucky that I did it. And all the stuff that you heard, you guys said in the bio since, all of those happened because of that one chance, or that one taking some courage. One was being at the event, right? So I'll challenge everybody on that too. There's a lot of little lessons in there. Hey, where are you going? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Where are you finding yourself about the things that you're passionate and interested in? Because if you never go do anything about it, like, the magic isn't going to happen, right? So hopefully that's a good start to the story a little bit. And there's so many things under there too, right? Like that we'll have, like, because what I just told, that was a 10, 20 year span of a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah. And I think when you take that initial leap, and especially if you take an initial leap and it's successful, then you are more likely to take the next leap and the next leap and the next leap versus just sitting there, always shackled by fear.
Yeah. But hey, but even if it wasn't successful and you had failure,
Right.
you gotta fail. Like it's kind of funny. I was reading this morning. I always read. That's like my meditation. I'll challenge everybody on that. What books are you reading? Because it's either going to be the people you meet, the places you go, or the books you read. Like that's who you're going to be different. Like the guy, me 25 years ago and me now, that's who I am now, are those things. And this morning I was reading and it was all about, which we'll talk about, because now I'm trying to actually have the courage to call myself a writer as well, which I've written 13 books, but I still never call myself a writer. Right. And it was like, man, you got to fail. You got to get excited when you fail. And it's kind of funny. Like now I get real excited when people tell me no, you can't do that. That thing gets me fired up, like even more crazy. Actually, like last night we were talking about it. My daughter has the ACT today and her calculator broke. It was midnight. And my wife says, no, we can't get another one. And I figured out how to get another one in like 5 minutes. So I loved hearing no, like that's not possible. We're going to figure it out. But I'm challenging everybody on that too. Man, you live once, like fail a little bit. Those mistakes are going to make you better, right? Like there's been a lot of times I tried to speak somewhere, or I tried to get a book deal, or I tried to do something. And I took a whole lot of no's before I ever got some yeses, right? So you have to be prepared for that and let that thing excite you, right? Like don't let it get you down. But when things do go good, it makes you more courageous, like Corey said, to just, then you try it again and again and again and again, without a doubt. Like for instance, Corey's been there. I dressed up one year as a speaker as an alien. Like I did my speech, at half the speech as an alien. I was like super nervous about that. I'll tell you what, that was almost, if you realize, Corey, that was like 07. That's almost 20 years ago. More people still tell me about that talk than almost any talk I did. And it shows like, man, go out on a limb, show a little courage. And that might be the thing they remember. Right. Mm-hmm. Which is pretty cool.
You always have to bet on yourself. I started going to Perform Betters. The first Perform Better I ever went to was the one day in 2018 in Durham. The first speaker I ever saw, Martin Rooney. And I was doing the firefighting deal, and I took the chance and left the fire department, and to have everything come full circle just a few short years later, and the three of us to be here doing this, those things speak to me, and we all have those stories, and we all have those things that we'll have that perspective on and look back and be able to connect all those lampposts.
Well, an interesting thing you're saying, like if I was really to crystallize myself as a coach, like I said before, the thing about being a writer, but really ultimately I consider myself a coach. I'm the high school track coach at my kids. Now I was at my other daughter's for 4 years. Now I'm at this one for the last few years. And yesterday I was just talking to all the kids and I just said, like, the biggest mistake I could make is I don't push you, or I don't challenge you, or I don't get you to be the best you could be, or get you to chase your passion, or get you to do the thing that you love. And it's exactly like you said. So to hear, hey, you saw me speak and it inspired you to now do the thing that you really love doing. I think for everybody listening like that, yeah, getting somebody stronger or bigger biceps is cool. But ultimately you're there to help them reach their potential or to be the thing that they could be. It's one of my favorite quotes from Emerson, and I'm paraphrasing it, but he said, but everybody in life wants this person that would inspire them to be what they know they could be. Right. And that's what I try to do. Right. Like my secret is, hey, find out what somebody wants. And then I just try to figure out ways to help them get it. And if you do that, man, you'll be the most popular person, and you're going to feel pretty great too. Cause when they get it, you get a piece of that too. So by you saying that, I'm inspired, because imagine, same thing. I bet you met so much adversity, Trey, when somebody might've said, wait, you're leaving fire department. That's such a good job. And there's a pension and you have this, and it's such security, and this is so easy. And you work for these days and then you're off for these hours. Are you nuts? And you work so hard to get there, dude. That's tremendous courage to overcome that. But if it ultimately isn't how you want to spend your whole life, so that when you're 80 years old on your deathbed and you look back, the last thing you want to look back and say, man, I really want to do this thing and I did this, right? Yeah. And
lived through all of those things. And when I went in to tell the chief and the assistant chief that I was leaving, I told him, I'm not bitter, I'm not disgruntled.
Yeah.
This job was perfect for me. It allowed me to grow into the person that I am, and I'm very thankful for that. But my life is taking me in a different direction. And the thought of waking up and doing that for 15 more years, it just wasn't me.
Yeah.
And that was miserable. And so I told the chief, I said, look, I'm leaving, and I'm leaving now. We have promotional testing, and there were guys that were on the promotional test, and the test was going to run out at the end of the following month. And I said, let me get out of their way. Those are the guys that want to be here. Let me help them grow in their careers. And I'm not going to be here much longer. So let me go now, and I'm going to go start my life and do what drives me and what I'm passionate about. And I walked out of there, and I was content, and I was satisfied with what I had done there. But I knew I had stuff here to grow, and those passionate things, and having people, and you talk about the track teams, how lucky are these kids to have you as the coach?
Well, I'll tell you this one: you're never a prophet in your own home. Sometimes
Amen.
I come home at night and I'm so frustrated. I'm like, you know what? People pay a whole lot of money to have that session. The 5 hours I just spent out there, and these kids sometimes they're giving me grief. But yeah, and then the harder part is even in your own house, because remember, my kid is on that team, and what I've said. Hey, there is nobody harder to train than your 16-year-old daughter. And, and this is my third one through, and I got another one coming. So, I'm the house idiot, by the way. Hey, that's why this is so refreshing. Like, I do these, and I realize, man, I actually did some stuff, because when I go home, my whole family, I think, my wife and kids, the joke is their job is to keep me real grounded. I'm like, it'd be great to, I wouldn't mind a pat on the back every once in a while, guys. Like, come on, Corey knows. They tear me to shreds.
Right.
But what you were saying right there, I think is really important for everybody listening again. Hey, if you're listening right now and watch this, and if you say, you know what, fitness isn't the thing, because I've met a lot of people like that. It'll be like, oh, I didn't have a job. This gym had an opening. I went, and then I was there, and now I was training, and then I did a good job. So now I'm the manager, and and now I hate my life. I hate what I'm doing. Hey guys, anybody listening, this works in the reverse too. Like, what is the thing you'd love to be doing? And if it isn't it, if there's any message I could give you, if it isn't it, go figure out how to spend your time on the thing that is. And, Corey knows this, Trey knows this, and it's, I'm letting it inspire me, because I think that's what my mom would want. But my mom just passed away, and I already said how she was an inspiration to me. And, I think my mom would be super disappointed in me if I spent my life doing things that I wasn't happy because everybody told me I should do that. Right. And I just meet so many people like that just grind in a job they don't love on the weekends to spend some time on the thing they love. I'm challenging everybody. If you want to, if you can go for it and make that thing the thing you want to do. And and as I get older, the time gets shorter. I know I only have so much availability left. It gets even more important. Like, I look back sometimes and say, man, I wasted this time, or I could have done so much more with it. Learn that lesson, because everybody, I think, thinks that way when they get older. So do something about it now.
I think, looking back at the light posts, as you said, you see how many of them are, but it's the next, also look at what's the next evolution. Where does your passion take you forward? And I think people looking at you with TFW and all of the success that you had, to now hear chancellor of a university. That, in fitness terms, we would call that a lateralization.
Yeah. Oh, well, here, you wait till you hear this story, and then it won't be at all. So when I started in my fitness career back then, there was no internet. So we didn't have the internet yet. Right. You had to maybe get your hands on a manual, because there weren't even books. Like, some guys would write some manuals. You'd always hear, I always make a joke. It was like everybody every once in a while would find these Russian texts that were like the Dead Sea Scrolls. They would dig in a cave and find in a jar like some Russian text, which I don't know if they were ever real or not. But I was chasing who was the best of the best at that time. So hey, Charlie Francis was the top speed guy. I would travel to events and try to find him. Charles Poliquin was putting out some great stuff, so I would spend time around him. But one of the guys that stood out the most to me was a guy named Fred Hatfield, Dr. Fred Hatfield. He was known as Dr. Squat. In the legend, depending on who you read, the first guy to squat 1,000 pounds. And he was a professor of exercise science in New Jersey at a university that I was the physical therapist for his great buddy, who was also a PhD and professor. And they started using my book, Train to Win, as the intro to fitness courses there at the university. But when I went and saw Hatfield the first time, and this was by the end of his career, he was so passionate and on fire. Like I remember this dude was just amped, and hey, I'm considered a pretty amped up guy. This guy was like so fired up. And I'll never forget, it was something, he just got enraged at one point, and he goes, they should be teaching all this in kindergarten. The first thing should be this and that and this. He's talking about all these like fitness things that, and like every kid should do this and that and this. And I lean over to my buddy and I'm like, dude, can you imagine if this dude was your kindergarten teacher? like what would happen? But I got to see him a few more times, and unfortunately he passed away. But in his vision, he was a visionary. He started what was called the ISSA, which was the first certification for personal training. But they had such a vision that they knew education would be more. They started the first online exercise science college ever. We're talking 40 years ago, right? It was the ISSA College of Exercise Science, which is now known as Lionel University. And I have a great friend who is now CEO of the university. And for years, they had been dying to figure out how I could be involved, right? Like, I love exercise science. I love to inspire and teach. I think this is a real career, and everything aligned, and I couldn't ignore it anymore, where I love teaching, right? Like, I love teaching. I love inspiring the next generation, but the big light post moving forward, and we talked about this, and for everybody listening, I think you'll agree, I want my last move to continue to legitimize, whether we call it our industry, like, see, we can't even dare to call it our profession, right? Which is part of the problem. So a doctor, it's called a profession. A lawyer, it's called a profession. An accountant, it's called a profession. My one daughter is graduating in dental hygiene. It's like this profession. She just took her state board. She's taking her national licensure. My other daughter is for nursing. It's a profession. And, our industry. And then I remember we were talking about, I'm like, wait, if I want to be a plumber, if I want to be an electrician, I want to a fireman, I want to be any of these things. Like, there's all this stuff that has to happen. And we almost don't still have that yet in our field. I think, unfortunately, that graduated from people working in gyms, and gyms didn't want to pay people. So then they bring people in, and there's almost like a battle to not have this legitimacy. But it is my goal that someday when somebody says, hey, what do you do? Somebody can say, I'm a coach, or I'm a strength and conditioning expert. I'm a fitness professional. And somebody's going to really listen to that just like they would want, a physical therapist or something else, because I believe how important it is what we do. I'll say it all the time. You might see your doctor once a year or once a year, but you see your physical, whether it's your trainer, your strength and conditioning coach, you might see them 150 times a year, or your sport coach, whatever else. And I don't think, not only don't we get our due, but I don't know, I don't think the world understands how important it is. And this move with Lionel, one, it's to carry the torch that Hatfield carried, which I think is really, really cool. We are developing curriculum and continuing to add to the faculty and pioneer the ways that learning happens, because learning is very different now and how we do it. I want to get rid of the stodgy old, this university will not be textbooks and reading just the Krebs cycle, right? Like, as a joke, I always say, no, we're going to study what everybody would study once they get out of school. So we're super prepared, and we have the best people to get involved. And what's really cool about the university is it can go all the way from certification, like all the way from like essentially like your GED in fitness. It's the Lionel CPT, but you can get an associate's degree, you can get a bachelor's degree, you can get a master's degree. And we're putting together a master's program that is going to be like no other, and taught in a way, and the access that the people get to us and the education, super, super exciting. So, and I've been there, man, it's coming up on a year now. So This isn't something new. It's just something that it's like this foundation that we're building and ready to go. So we joke and say we're a 40-year startup, right? Because it's, it has been around a while, but really that is this really, really cool and exciting mission that I'm on. Because if I left this industry better than I found it, I got to do something like this. It can't just be, I just keep adding another course, book, cert that when someone does it, they aren't really either any more valuable, it doesn't get them a better job, or they have an opportunity to make more money. And I want to make sure that we have that in our field, just like every other field like that, if that makes sense. Like, what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with that?
Makes complete sense.
100%.
Makes complete sense. I was just getting my hair cut the other day, and right on the mirror of the person cutting my hair is her state license to cut hair. I mean, and that's her profession. She's a hairstylist, and we see it all the time in fitness. And sometimes it gets mocked. Oh, you're a coach. You're somebody that's you're in between jobs. And it really, one of, if not the most important job out there. I mean,
Yeah.
it is, we have people's health and wellness in our hands. We have, everything that had positivity. I mean, we are the beacon of positivity in their life. Most of people go to a job that they don't like. They sit in traffic, all these things, and then they come to us and we need to refill that cup.
Yeah. Well, and and what I try to get across too, I think we haven't created enough roadmaps for what careers are out there. And when you really, you know what I mean? Like, so for instance, my kid is in the dental hygiene program. She's about to graduate. She did that the last 3 years, and she knows the exact path like that you take. And then now you graduate and you do this. And it's almost fitness. We have not defined these paths very clearly. And we're always changing the of what it's called. So right now, sports science is a buzz. Right now, mental performance coach is a buzz. Right now, we're always changing what they are, where I want to try to create these tracks where if somebody said this is, and we're creating surveys, different stuff that'll help you figure out what you would be best at. Like, hey, never forget, if you're a strength and conditioning coach, I think the guy at Georgia is getting paid over $1 million. Like, so this is a real profession, but it's funny. You want that job. Yeah, you need to have a master's degree. You need to probably have incredible experience. You need to have a number of certifications. So it's kind of like we dance around it. I just want everybody to understand, hey, we have this all over. Like high schools need great coaches. Universities need great coaches. Hey, if you want to work in the fitness space, but whatever it is, we have not defined it out well enough and then how to chase that and what we're passionate about. But yeah, so this is the next undertaking, which is really, really fun. But my Training for Warriors organization, we still have so many, essentially gyms around the world, and so many people are being inspired every day. And hey, Parisi Speed School is where I got my start. Same thing. So many millions of people have been inspired through that I feel like, hey, that impact part is there. Now I want to make it that we put our stamp on this thing too, that I don't know, like in a weird way that, hey, we're as good as any other profession out there too.
Martin, one thing I'm curious about, and Corey and I, we talk about this, and the first time we ever really sat down and met, we talked about philosophy, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. And I told Corey that my 3 are, I want to keep people safe, I need to have fun, and then I want people feeling better walking out of the gym than they did walking in. And Corey had his safe, sweaty smiles. And what, if you had to boil down your sort of ethos, what would it be?
Man, that's a tough one. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny. I did this exercise 20 years ago when I started, and I wrote this book called Train to Win. And Train to Win was essentially what I discovered was, because I was just chasing exercises, right? Like I was like, remember, it was like the giant kettlebell craze, and then it was the dumbbell craze, and then it was the stability ball craze, and then it was barbell craze, and then it was Olympic lift craze. And it was almost like everybody was battling about what was best, right? And what I realized was any of those could work to achieve a goal or a result, right? So maybe that's the first part of the philosophy, is your job is to produce a result that they want, right? Like, so I think we sometimes forget that as coaches. So you are there to help somebody get closer to the result that they want, that they can't get there themselves. But what I found was that there were a number of principles that, regardless of the exercise you selected or the training program or the model, if you didn't follow those principles, none of them were going to work. And yet that's what you guys were just hitting on. So you were just hitting on the principles of your philosophy. And guys, I can't argue with the ones you said. Hey, safety, that's numero uno. Right? If you hurt people, I'm not listening anymore. And there were a lot of training systems that, yes, maybe they're fun or like you said, it got to have fun, got to be sweaty. But if it's hurting a lot of people and they're all getting hurt with the same exact types of injuries, because remember, you can't prevent them all. You're never going to prevent every injury. Stuff's going to happen. Somebody's going to roll their ankle. Somebody's going to pull their hamstring. But if people are tearing off muscles and they're all the same muscles, man, I would change the program, right? And, because the principle is safety. So you see how I called it my compass, right? So I had this compass that directs me. So if all of a sudden people are getting hurt or it doesn't look safe, the compass is going to direct me away from that, right? Other pieces would be, it has to progress over time. I think what happened with our boot camp craze, that was another one that, we watched come and go. It was just people smashing people, but there was no progression to that. right? And then it's not sustainable. Like, what am I trying to achieve? It's like, ooh, today is beast mode. What's tomorrow? Beast mode. What's the next day? Beast mode. And again, not sustainable, and actually probably violates safety a little bit too. And as you can, and then, hey, specific adaptation, right? That one goes all the way back to Hatfield, where, okay, what am I trying to achieve? So right now, when I am doing the workouts with my track and field team, that's very different than a training for warriors workout for the 35 to 55-year-old person and what they're trying to achieve. So I'm looking for specific adaptations that I want to happen with those track and field athletes. And again, that compass is going to direct me towards that. But if I did that same training with a 45-year-old, like, it would destroy, I would violate the safety piece again. And it's wrong. So it's interesting you're jumping on this. Maybe watch, we'll take a step back. Everybody listening, everything that I kind of just said, if some things are going off in your head, you need to come up with what yours are, right? Like, but meaning your philosophical points, right? And oh, wow, I forgot this is the one. Check this out. They carved my face into this book. So I can't even
open it. Here.
Yeah, so I can't even open this one to read off.
Which page do you want, Martin?
What I would say is, the principles. So the 11 principles, they're right there. So you know how, so I call it the 11 principles of success. Trey, those, you know how you said, hey, I got safety, I got fun, I got this. My 11, the hardest part was I couldn't even narrow it down smaller. There could probably still be a few more, but I didn't want it to be that you can't remember it. That is those. And you know what? By going through that process, it took me years to write it. I crystallized what I believe in. So this thing is my compass, right? And again, at Lionel, we're using this as a part of the coursework. And there were 3 different, I started it 20 years ago. Then I rewrote it. So there's been 3 rewrites because it changes, right? Like, even my, not philosophy, but I think the science changed. I think I've evolved, which maybe would be a great thing to talk about, of you have to always keep learning. Hey, I made a lot of mistakes. Like, I'm always questioning my approach and my philosophy, right? Like, I'll say this one, track and field, I got the AD to agree, like, this year we're going to be in the weight room. We have a really tiny weight room. It isn't as good as we would want it, but I'm figuring out a way that with our 80 kids, I'm going to do shifts and get them in on certain days because we have to strength train through the season. But here's one thing that changed about me a lot, even amongst my own kids. My oldest, we really did a lot of heavy lifting. And, and hey, knock on wood, never bothered her, and hey, we had incredible results. But now I'm almost seeing, I can't pull that off with all those kids in the weight room. Again, it's going to violate the safety part. But what I can pull off is faster lifts, lighter weight, all with the concept of intent. And I think we're going to still be able to achieve a very similar result. But do you see how that's a change in my philosophy, where maybe 20 years ago, I'm like, man, we just have to get you strong, like, period. And whereas now I would say, hey, how can I do the most I can do in a short period of time to get them as powerful as possible for the right specific demand I'm looking for? So yeah, stuff like, and even like cool stuff like exercises, right? Like, I remember when I thought flipping tires was cool. And the only reason I thought it was cool because it was like this new thing. So there was a period of time, guys, no one ever flipped tires. I was there when it started. And then I remember one guy like tweaking his bicep, and I was like, we're never going to do this again, because why am I doing this? Right? Like, what would I need to flip a tire for? Like, what is the risk reward there? Mm-hmm. Kind of thing. Now, if anybody's listening and they flip tires, or you're in a strongman competition, go flip them. That's cool. What I'm saying is, what's your philosophy? Choose it. Right? Because if it's just pick cool stuff, or pick stuff that makes you really sore or dead tired, you got a long way to go, right? Like, there's still so many things, because remember, they're after a result. You may have to make them a little bit tired to do it, but tired's not my goal, right? If that.
Yeah, that's similar to the path in a fitness career, like that you're outlining in Lionel. You have to have a track and a path in your fitness training modality and philosophy as well.
And it takes time to grow, right? Like, so here, I'll take you to another story. You guys will love this. Because remember, I will say this one, it's a biggie. If you're going to claim all the cool stuff, right? Like, so for me to, you know how you said it, Trey's like, oh, he had these NFL Combine guys. And I had incredible results with the NFL Combine guys, but there were some guys that didn't get results. Or there was, there's a guy that probably is not happy with it, right? I have to own up to that too. Hey, I've had fighters that have won the UFC championship, And then I've had fighters go in there and lose. And I blame myself because there was probably things I did wrong in their preparation that they didn't win. And you got to own up to that, because I think our fitness industry, all we do is show the great before and afters. We don't show the person that gained weight and left, right? And you should always be thinking about them. How could I have helped them? How could I have made them better? What did I miss there? Versus, because like I talk with the fighters, you don't learn from the wins, you learn from the losses. So I would challenge everybody to question that. But watch, here's a great one of mine. Almost got me killed. You guys will like this one. So I'm like 18, going on 19. I'm home for the summer. And my mom knew this fitness guy that opened a gym, and she got me a job, right? Because I needed some money, needed to work in the summer. And I loved fitness, and she knew that. So she gets me this job. They interview me. They like me. And, because I look fit, I guess that was the pre-qualification. I looked fit. I hadn't really, I think I'd had a couple courses in college at this point, and I'd read a whole lot of muscle and fitness, and I did a whole lot of lifting in my basement. In particular, a whole lot of arm lifting. I don't think I ever lifted legs till I was like 25, because I didn't know I had legs. I just wore baggy pants, right? Which is, funny. But man, did I know about arm training. And this is going to be important to the story. Cosgrove loves this one. He saw me teach. I told this one, man, like 20 years ago, and he never forgot it. He always hits me with this. And so my job at the gym was I would take people through this series of select rights equipment. So anybody new, you would take them through, show them how to use each machine. And then at the end, you had to try to sell them personal training, right? And what's interesting is when they would usually buy it, then they wanted to buy it with you because they knew you. Right. And there's this dude, right? Because guys, I'm from New Jersey. This guy was straight off The Sopranos, right? If this can make a picture for you. The guy comes in, he's got the accent. Hey, he's going through. And then at the end, he says, okay, I'm going to sign up for this. And here's what I need. He's like, I need bigger arms by Friday. Can you do that for me? Now, I'm 18. I got sort of big arms. What do you think I said?
Yes.
What I should have said was, dude, it's Monday. Like, how are we going to have bigger arms by Friday? But instead I said, bigger arms? I know everything about bigger arms. Let's do this. So I sign him up for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? And so he comes in on that Tuesday. And it's probably the hardest arm workout I ever probably imagined, did, anything. I came up with every bicep exercise that could be done on planet Earth. I got him like upside down doing like, I'm holding him upside down. He's doing cable rows. We're doing bicep curls. We're doing curls. We're turning the hand. We're doing every single thing we could do. It's like an hour straight of arms. The guy's all pumped. He's got a pump. He's like, I'll be in tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Big date on Friday. Because he had a big date on the Friday, right? And Wednesday comes. Guess what happens? He doesn't show up. So the guy doesn't show up. Thursday we're scheduled. He doesn't show up. I'm like, oh man, I guess he canceled or he didn't like me. Friday, I guess he had his big date. There's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But I like the guy. So it's about like now midweek the next week. And the guy comes in. His arms are sticking out at the side. And the guy comes in and man, he doesn't look happy. And I'm like, dude, what's going on? You're back. That's cool. How was the date? And he says, dude, I was thinking about killing you last week. And then he was like dead serious. And I said, what? What's wrong? And he goes, dude, I had this date, finally got this girl to go out with me. I had Yankees tickets. We did that arm workout. And he said, I woke up the next day. He said his arms were like stuck out at the side. He was in deep sweats. He couldn't move. His arms were swollen. I probably rhabdoed him maybe I invented rhabdo before there was rhabdo. Because now they talk about rhabdo. I didn't even know what it was. And he goes, the next day was worse. He's like, he didn't know if he needed to go to the hospital, whatever else he didn't. But he said on the Friday, he still decides he's got to go on this date. He said he's like pounding ibuprofen or whatever else, but he's like sitting next to her. He's just in a deep sweat. He can't even move his arms. She thinks he's a freak. He goes to the Yankee game. It's the worst day of his life. And like and the date was a total disaster. And he said, right then, he looked so serious. He said, dude, I was thinking of killing you. And here's what he said, though. He said, but I knew you're a good kid and you didn't try to hurt me or do anything to me like that. And he said, but if you ever do that to anybody else, like I'll come back there and kill you. And then it ended up, then we trained together and everything went awesome. But here was the thing. I learned the biggest lesson in the world. That day taught me to always be conservative. That day taught me just because I can do something, somebody else can't do something. That taught me if somebody is brand new to anything, you gotta really ease in. It was like, I got so many lessons from that. But I got so many lessons from that because I made a tremendous, tremendous mistake. And to this day, guys, I'm more conservative than I am aggressive in my training always. I am very conservative because I know there's time, right? Like you're never going to solve everything in one workout. You're never and you're not going to win the world in one workout. There's no Olympic medals handed out for your workout. And your goal is to get them to like you enough to continue to train for a very long time. Fitness is forever, and that you get the opportunity to change their diet and change their sleep habits and everything else. But again, full circle, that story just showed I didn't know anything then, but you got to learn as you go. Hopefully you can learn from not making mistakes. Hopefully everybody hears that and maybe you don't make the same mistake I did, when I was such a kid. But the whole thing is, hey, you got to learn from them and you got to keep moving forward too. But also, I wish I could say I was perfect or did it right? Like, so why I always keep this here, this is my black belt in judo. Why I always keep it on my desk is it is my reminder always, because I heard this, the black belt isn't the person that makes no mistakes. It's the person that made them all. They just don't make them anymore, right? Like you got to make mistakes. You got to fail. You got to lose, right? And I did all those things to eventually learn how to not do that, right? But hopefully you don't learn the way I did by almost killing a guy with his arms.
or getting killed in the process.
Yeah. And he was serious about that.
Question for you, Martin, because we did talk about passion, purpose, and your career, which has taken you all kinds of places. And I got a really cool text this morning from you. What's the next passion?
So in addition to the Lionel stuff we talked about, in addition to training for Warriors and coaching and track right now and everything, which we have a lot going on, in really, really cool news, and this is the first time I'll talk about it, 2 years ago, I started writing an action hero fiction novel, like a thriller. I always wanted to press myself to see if I could play in that space, to see if I could really be considered a writer, right? Like, so I've written 13 books. Like, look at this. Like I was showing Corey this before. This is some of them. So I have written, I think this is like 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 pages, and that's just some of the books. And I've written all of those, yet I never had the audacity to say, I'm a writer. Yeah, like if somebody asks me what I do, I never say I'm a writer. And I want to be. Like, I'm a super nerd. Corey knows this. Guys, I read more than anybody. I've read thousands of books. They're all on my shelves. I go through them. I'm nonstop. Just finished another one last night, which I'm super excited about because I start a new one today. And from all different genres, right? To be really eclectic. And I just always said, man, I want to try this. And so I wrote this book, how it started. One of my best friends, he was an Olympic silver medalist. He got cancer. And I would go up and visit him in New York City. And I hatched this idea that I was going to write about this character that he reminded me of. And I always wanted to do it. And we used it as this cathartic process to get him through. The good news is he made it. The bad news is I sat on that character for 30 years. And it took my friend getting cancer to finally have the guts to take a shot. And then in cool story, I was cornering at the UFC in New York City. The book was done. I had it, but I had no agent. And I've never had an agent for any of my books, which is not a smart way to do it. And I was sitting next to Jim Miller. He was getting ready to fight in a few days in Madison Square Garden. And I said, watch this. And I called this old publisher, the publisher from the book, Coach to Coach and High 10. And I said, dude, I wrote this book. I know it's not a book for you guys, but do you know anybody? Do you know anybody that's in that space that maybe would be interested in seeing it? And he says, no. And I could have took that, but I didn't because I knew I couldn't believe it. And I said, wait a minute, you've been in this industry for all this time and you don't know one person, like you don't got one name, not something. And he goes, well, okay, I got one name. He goes, but I'm going to make an email introduction. That's it. Don't hold it against me if nothing happens. I said, that's all I need. Right. And he makes the introduction and the guy's like, oh my God, I know exactly who you are. You're awesome, man. This and that. Let me see what you got. And I said it. And then he's like, oh my God, this thing is like really good. This character is nuts. And your writing is great. Where did you learn all this? And I didn't, I'm not part of writers' workshops or have a group or a editor or anything. And they bought it. And hey, we've just been through the horrific process of editing, everything else. And what Corey's mentioning is I just shared with him the jacket and the cover. It's done. It comes out on June 3rd. Pre-sales will start soon. It's already up on Amazon, but I'm waiting till the photo is up there. So the book is called Blood Feud, which is, not my usual motivational stuff. I'll tell everybody this. If you like actions heroes, if you like 80 actions movies, if you like something about like Jack Reacher or Daredevil, you are going to love this character. But hey, I dare you to check it out because, hey, if you know my other stuff, this is not a motivational book. Do not read this one to your kids at night, right? But I'm super, super excited about it because it really made me super uncomfortable, right? Like Corey was saying, what's next or how are you going to push it? I've had a passion for writing my whole life. Like, if anything else, I feel I'm creative, whether it's the speaking, the writing, the coaching. I'm always using my creative side. Corey knows I decided to be a professional chainsaw carver a couple of years ago too, and I've sold a lot of pieces, right? So I'm always trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, and the writing was definitely it. It took a lot of courage to put things on the page where you were just afraid to do that. So I can't wait to see what people think. But in advanced praise, if you look, Corey, on that thing I sent you, the third testimonial on there is by an Edgar Award winner who was also a writer in residence at a university. He read it for me. And if you read the first quote, he said, dude, this Martin Rooney guy can flat out write. And I think already, like, I don't care what anybody else thinks, just that.
Right. Validation
is all I needed. And now I have like a lot more courage with it to get rocking. But yeah, that will be coming out. And if anybody listens to this and they like what I said, I call it like Girl Scout cookies. If your friend said, hey, can you buy some Girl Scout cookies from my kid? Even if you didn't eat them and you gave them to somebody else, it's a good thing to buy them. I'm asking you to buy the book. Even if you don't read this style, give it to somebody who likes it. Because it's a 5-book series. And I showed the guys this a second ago. Book 2 is done. I wrote that already, but book 2 doesn't get to come out if nobody reads book 1. So that's going to be my big challenge, another big challenge in the next few months. So it just made me, this interview has reminded me I got a lot going on right now, which is pretty cool.
Well, and everybody check it out. Blood Feud, June 3rd.
Yes.
That Martin Rooney sure can write.
Yeah. He can flat out write.
Flat out right.
Which, and hey, and that was, I don't know him. So to get a review like that from somebody you don't know is, that really, really cool. So it was, but again, it goes back to the same stuff. What are you passionate about? Are you going to take a crack? If there's any way that anybody was inspired today by this conversation, I hope you just keep hearing that from me, is whether it's dressing up like an alien or writing a crazy like thriller story, or man, like saying what needs to be said when you're coaching a person, either on the floor, court, track, whatever. I've always pressed myself to do that, because if I just laid back and didn't do it, that would be the thing I think I would regret the most someday when I don't have the chance to do it anymore, right? And if there's anything that inspired everybody today, hey, that's your one thing, right? And that's the other part too. It doesn't have to be coaching or writing or reading. What's your thing, right? But use those same principles again and go for it. And that's the best way you can honor yourself. And you owe it to yourself to do it too, right?
Yeah, well, and that's about as good an outro as you can get on this thing to wrap it up. So, there you go. That's why he's the best in the business, folks.
That's right.
Yeah, so for the Coaches Unscripted podcast, this is Trey and Coach Corey and Martin Rooney signing off. And like I always say, if you like this one, write them and we'll do more. Because like Mr. T said in Rocky 3, we got a whole lot of mo for you.
Pity the fool. And our prediction
is pay.
So we thank you for joining us on the Coaches Unscripted podcast. We hope today's stories have inspired and empowered you in your coaching journey. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow coaches. Connect with us on Instagram at the Coaches Unscripted podcast. Follow Martin Rooney at the Martin Rooney on Instagram to continue the conversation and stay updated on future episodes. Until next time, for Corey Smallwood, Martin Rooney, I'm Trey Belcher. Keep coaching from the heart and building strong communities.